but a lot of people just start catching on to it recently about Airbnb and how they're kind of cracking down on business, and specifically in Atlanta. You can only have 2 Airbnb short-term rental units, and that one, you have to be a resident in one, and then the other one you have to be an owner of. So they're estimating that that's going to kind of shut down about 4,000 Airbnb businesses or units, because they're trying to increase property, because there's a housing shortage, right? So so they're trying to make sure that there's housing for like everyday folks, just long-term tenants. But with any type of law, and that's not, the reason that it's kind of being popular right now in that conversation is because it's Atlanta, but that's not the first city or state that that's actually happened in. That's happened across a few other places, because as you know, state and local governments are going to figure out a way, A, to monetize things, or B, kind of control them. And since this is kind of a business model that kind of leads to, little control, other than from the platform standpoint, of course, people are going to figure out a way to make sure that they're taking advantage of that. And of course, local government needs to figure out how to mandate that. So, but what I want to do is what that helps us talk about is, when we know something is happening, it helps us to better prepare our businesses for it, right? So instead of being reactive, that means for us to be proactive. And so also, that's one conversation that kind of led to this topic. And then the other conversations that we have, this recession topic looming. Are we headed in recession? Are we currently in recession? But here's what we do know, that recessions tend to happen about every decade or so. So we're due, the last one we had started in, and typically what happens with a recession is they don't announce that we're in recession, but we've been feeling it for years before they actually say that we're there, because so many things have to happen before they can actually dictate that word. However, we feel a recession long before they announce it, right? So remember the housing crisis in 2008. We really started feeling that in about 2006, right? And I know from experience, because I had a house that was one of those adjustable rate mortgages. And about 2006, that rate lock that I had, that 2-year rate lock that I had, was released. And every 6 months, the payment would jump up. And it would jump up based upon what the interest rate was about that time. So every 6 months, my rate was going up. So I would just keep chasing that rate. And then what was happening for me was I was trying to refinance it to get a fixed rate. But of course, what was happening on the flip side was the value of the property was going down. So I couldn't refinance it for what I owed on it without coming out of pocket. At first it was $15,000, then it was $25,000, then it was $40,000. So the rate was dropping, the value was dropping as fast as the interest rate was increasing. So there's a sign of recession. And they hadn't announced that we were in recession yet, but I knew for my lifestyle, I was in recession. So that's what's happening kind of what's right now. We see that the prices are going up, and we see that our pay and the income that we're receiving is not increasing with the trend of keeping up with it. So although they said we're headed towards a recession, we're really at the cusp of it. And what we do know is that the average recession lasts about 17.5 months to about 1.5 years. The longest lasts about 3 years, and that was the Great Depression. So we're not there yet, because what's different about this particular recession is that for most recessions, the unemployment rate is typically really, really high. That's not happening now. The unemployment rate is extremely low. And the housing market, it's typically, for most recessions, is usually all over the place. This particular housing market is really, really strong. Actually, there's a shortage of inventory. So, but what that lets us know as business owners, you need to make sure that you're insulating your business to make sure that you're keeping that money in your business, and you're building a plan out for when the true recession happens, right? We're just seeing the trickle down effect right now, but eventually we'll see the bubble pop, and then they'll claim that it's a recession. But what you want to have during a recession is you want to have money, because there's a quote by Nathan Rothschild, and they equate it to Warren Buffett a lot of times, but he says that the time to buy is when there's blood in the street. It's really not a very sweet term, but it's really true, because that's when the deals happen, right? So you want to make sure that you have a plan to come out stronger and create opportunities for yourself during this time. And remember, one of the things that we know to be true is cash is king, right? So I talked about how I was a part of that 2006 bubble where the value of my house was going down, but my interest rate was going up. So I chased that thing for about 2 years, trying to catch up to get that payment. And at a certain point, it just doubled and I couldn't afford it anymore. So I did what a lot of people did during that time was I did a short sale. So that was in 2008, 2009, did a short sale, sold it back to the company. They gave me money for my keys, gave them their house back in lovely order, better than when I bought it. And then they turned around and sold it for dirt cheap. But what I did on the flip side of that was I turned around and bought somebody else's foreclosure for dirt cheap, short sale for dirt cheap. So, but the thing was, is I luckily had foresight to say, I'm not gonna keep trying to pay this payment. Let me try to sell this thing back to them and stack up some coins. And in the process of stacking up some coins, I stacked up enough to buy somebody else's headache or drama, and was able to, now that particular property I still hold, and I'll just give you some raw numbers. So I paid about 25 grand for that at the time. And now it's valued at a little over 200,000. So that shows you, if you have some cash during the time of a bleed, you can actually create opportunities for yourself. So a lot of people are doing, especially in the Airbnb space, are doing rental arbitrage where you don't actually own the property, where you're subletting this. This may be an opportunity to get that property and actually own and hold it. Where that way, when the local governments start to change the rules, you're ahead of the curve because you actually own the property. You can control what you own. If you own that land on that property, you can control what you own. And then here's what a lot of people are doing. They're really worried about. They're worried about what this law says is because they don't really own that property. So you kind of don't have a lot of control over it. If the owner says, hey, the rule changed and now we got to go this route. If you own that, you start reading that law to the letter, and for every law, there's a loophole. And it's not illegal, it's a loophole. That's the same thing with tax strategies. We take the tax laws and find where the loopholes are to benefit you. And that's the same thing you do when you see these laws come out, but you have to control the narrative, right? And the only way you can control the narrative is by being proactive about it, not waiting for the recession to hit and say, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because what we also know about a recession is the market always rebounds. It always rebounds. Like I said, it's about 1.5 years that a recession runs. And real estate, low or high, is always an asset. So no matter what you get on real estate, and real estate not only being property, right now in the short-term rental space, real estate is RVs, real estate is land, because you can do a campground. Real estate is a boat. Real estate is a slingshot or all-terrain vehicles. Real estate is any asset that you have that you can rent out for a short term for other individuals and actually profit off of that, right? So what you want to make sure that you're doing in this space, you want to be the hunter, not the prey, right? Because if we watch Animal Planet, we know we're always rooting for the prey, but it never typically ends well for them, right? So you want to make sure that you're the hunter, not the prey in this. And what happens during a recession is things that were originally unattainable become available to you during a recession. Like I said, couldn't afford to buy that property when the market was good, but when the market went bad, can I get, it's like, it makes sure you have some cash or some access to some capital so that you can actually come out above or come out ahead before the recession happened. More millionaires are made during a recession than when times are good. When times are good, we tend to close our eyes to everything that's happened around us and know that for everything that life is a roller coaster, business is a roller coaster, and the economy is a roller coaster. We know for everything that goes up, it eventually comes down. We want to make sure that we're bracing ourselves for that downturn and that we come out on the winning end when it goes back up, because we know it's going to go back up, right? And so if you've got resources during a recession, you can secure things that you probably couldn't prior to that recession. Prime example here. So, and again, what I talked about was what's some additional things that's unusual about this particular recession. I talked about that the housing market is doing really well. Unemployment is at an all-time low. Checking account balances are at a high. So that is unusual. So we're in an unusual type of recession. So we know that there's still cash out there in the market, but what you have to do is make sure that you're being proactive about keeping that cash in your business and making sure that you're set up to grow during this recession, right? So remember, cash is king. But here's what you really have to do right now. You have to watch your spending. You have to watch your spending. And even in your business, especially for your business, if it's not going to bring you some ROI, some return on your investment, you really have to debate and decide if that's something that you want to invest in, as far as what's going to be the net for you? How's that going to help you in your business? The worse off the market is, the better opportunities are for a profit. It's sad to say, but it really is. It's really, really true. And then one of the quotes that Warren Buffett said, Warren Buffett says, it is wise for investors to be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And that is a true statement, because you don't want to operate in a place of fear. You want to operate in a place of being proactive and smart about your business. So what I've done is let's talk about how to recession-proof your business, right? So one thing that you have to do is you have to know your revenue. You got to know your revenue. You got to know what you're really working with, because otherwise, you can't have an intelligent conversation. You got to know your revenue. You got to know what expenses are going out of your business. You have to know what your spend is, because what you want to have during a recession is you want to have a 6-month burn rate. You want to have 6 months of what it takes to keep your business going in the bank or somewhere saved up, whether it's mattress money or wherever you put your money at. You want to make sure that you have 6 months burn rate saved up, because what's that going to do? It's going to make sure that whether times are good or times are bad, you can float in your business. You can make sure that you keep the profits coming in, whether you have people booking or not. And also what that means is, if some opportunities come available that are just too good to pass out, and you do the numbers, those may be time to seize those opportunities and build additional assets for your business. And then what you also want to do is you want to build some CRM tools in your business so you can grow your client base, increase your loyalty with your current customers, and generate additional leads for your business. Because what you don't want to do as an Airbnb owner is rely on the platforms to generate you business. You want to own your database. The money is in the data. This is why Credit Karma exists. This is why all those free platforms exist. Do you really think those things are free? Because those things are free is because you're giving them your data. And what in turn they do with your data is they sell them to everybody else. This is why they keep presenting you with offers, because every time you click on that call to action button and accept that offer, they get paid. So nothing is free. Your data, your email, your address, your name, your phone number, all of that equates to dollars. Because what I can do is I can take your demographic information and figure out how I can sell you things. What does somebody in your demographic typically buy? Let me flood those things to you. And every time those things are flooded to you and you take the action on purchasing those things or showing an interest in those things, you don't even have to buy it. Just show an interest in those things and they get paid. So anything that's free, believe me, your value is far greater than you purchasing something from them. Your value is your data, because I can sell it over and over and over and over again. So this is why you really have to think about your business. Own your data. Your data is so important to you. So if you have a customer come stay at your Airbnb or your VRBO, whatever unit, your short-term rental business, if you have a customer, you need to build a relationship with that customer so you can proactively, hey, if you're in the area again, reach out to us first, start building a loyalty message with those customers, because you want to make sure that you're top of mind when they're ready to come back to your area, when they're ready to book another unit. And another way that you can increase those experiences is to create an experience. I was just reading another Airbnb owner. What she does is she partners with chefs. So whenever people are staying in her units, they can actually book for brunch. They can book for bread and breakfast. this isn't something she's providing. This she provides them with a list of chefs that are willing to support her business. And so this way she can create an experience for her guests. So we go to hotels and we pay for the ratings because we want experiences, we want treatment. So this is how you have to treat your business. Not only should it look good, smell good, it should smell like a mall when you walk in. It should smell like a Bloomingdale's or a Saks Fifth Avenue when you walk in. That it should be an experience when your guests come. And then you need to build a relationship with them. Call them before they come out. Find out if it's any particular reason they're staying. If it's a birthday, it's an anniversary, make sure you have something there that says, a bottle of wine that says, hey, congratulations on the anniversary, congratulations on the graduation, happy birthday. You need to create a relationship with that customer so they don't necessarily go back to the platform when they're seeking a new experience. They think of you first. You want to be first top of mind. So you need to make sure that you're solidifying your business where you can reach out to customers at any given time without even having to use a platform at some point. If you're relying on a platform, you're relying on them for your business. And what happens is if they go down, you go down. If they decide to boot you off, your business is booted off. Same thing with having any business on a social media platform. At some point, you better capture your customer data because Facebook has gone down several times. Instagram has gone down several times. And what happens if that's your sole source of business? You've lost all your customers. So you need to have a data point, a source where you can actually contact your customers. Recession-proof your business. It does not happen the day that the news announces that we're in a recession. It happens prior to. So you need to insulate your business so that you can maintain no matter what's happening in the marketplace. You want to make sure that you are forecasting what's happening, look profits, expenses, strategies. How do you save and how do you market? How do you maintain that business? You need to make sure that you're making smart money moves and making sure that you have this cash reserve set aside for for rainy days, or B, opportunities, because you want to, if there's an opportunity out there to solidify additional business or assets, you want, and it's a heck of a deal, a once in a lifetime opportunity, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in position to access those things. There's nothing like seeing something that's like, this sale isn't going to happen. I'll go back to myself. Where was I going to find a house for $25,000 at any other point in time in life, right? I didn't even have the $25,000 at the time. I robbed Peter to pay Paul. Like, wait a minute, got 500 here, 500 here. Don't even ask me how I figured out. I figured out a way to get that money and pay that, because where was that opportunity going to come again to secure a property? That's the type of thing that if a recession happens, that's what happens. And especially if we're in the same place as, I don't feel like we're in the same place as we were in that 2006 bubble, because we don't have just subprime mortgages and all that thing out there. However, we still have where people are overpaying for these properties at this point. And sometimes if you're overpaying for something, you probably might not be able to afford it, right? And we're not preying on anybody's downfall, but what we're thinking about is from a business standpoint. What did we say earlier? When there's bleed, you want to be on the receiving end of that. You don't want to, if there's a bleed, when there's blood in the street, it's time, there's an opportunity. You want to make sure you're not the one bleeding, right? So you want, and also from a standpoint, if you're trying to protect whatever community you're in and your business is in, you need to own the property, to own that area, to make sure that you can protect that, right? If people talk about gentrification and all those things, it's going to happen if you don't own the block, right? So you got to make sure that you're recession proofing your business in a way that's going to actually benefit you long term. And I'm going to leave this opportunity open for any questions. Anybody got any questions? I feel like I've been talking 1,000 miles a minute. Any questions on Instagram or Zoom? All right.
Said, you want to own your business. I mean, you want to own the land. Mm-hmm. How do you own land in Detroit?
Oh, you can buy specifically land. It doesn't even have to have a property on it in Detroit, Norma.
Really? Like in Roosevelt Park, I can own the property.
Absolutely. If you go, I can speak specifically to Detroit for sure. So if you go to the land bank online, Detroit Land Bank, you can buy whatever. You can buy a property that's dilapidated. And when you buy that, you're buying the land. And you may have to get rid of the property, but or you can buy specifically land. And I know that they also have a discount if you're buying land that's already in your neighborhood. So say if it's land next door to a place that you're already living, they give you a discount on it because they want to make sure that they're promoting that they're kind of keeping it in the family, I guess. But yeah, the Detroit Land Bank for sure. But all states have where the city or the state owns that property. They all have some website where you can go and actually purchase those properties. And if you're a resident of those cities, you typically get a discount. And like I said, if it's in your neighborhood already, you typically get a discount. Or if you or someone that works for that particular state or jurisdiction, they also have discounts. So I know for Detroit, if somebody works for the city of Detroit or the state of Michigan, I think it's for the city of Detroit, they give you a 50% discount on any of those properties on the land bank. Or they work for not even necessarily the city itself, but even if they're firefighters, Detroit police officers, all of those things, it qualifies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, so I do have a webinar, a live work session coming up. It's a VIP day. It's actually 4-week VIP day. It's called the Airbnb Biz Proof Blueprint. And it's a 4-week session where we're going to do what's called my term methodology, and it's a think tank for the B&B space. So week 1, we're going to build out a think tank. We're going to talk about your who, what, when, where, how much is your profits, how much are your earnings. We're going to do a deep dive on that. The second week, we're going to evaluate your vitals. So we're going to build financial statements specifically for your business and actually build out a plan of action to see what you're really working with and what are your goals, and we're going to work from there. The third week, we're going to recession-proof your business, going to have a recession-proofing mastermind where we're going to actually talk about the things we've talked about those prior 2 weeks and actually build out your recession-proof plan. And then finally, we're going to talk the 4th week, we're going to do making smart money moves, where we build out a marketing strategy for your business and kind of button all these things together. So if you're interested in signing up for that, it's going to be a limited audience. We're only going to take 10 people for that. If